Love the hat, John.
Thank you. Really need a haircut, and this was within reach.
I like it. Thanks for that merge there, John. Appreciate that. And I do apologize for having to be the person that hit reject on that vote. I just didn't feel like it was a good idea to push out something that had schema version 0 and no media types on things.
No worries. I think we're getting all those things resolved. I've been talking to Ram in Slack about getting Zot stuff up for that other PR. So
Even without a conformance test on the other stuff, I'm okay. I hesitate to say merge as is because I haven't gone through the whole spec yet, but the conformance itself with those changes in there, those were my big concerns. And so even without new test on the index with the subject in there, it's still conformance. We still have something we're testing for, so it's better than nothing. So I wouldn't be upset about merging it as is right now as an RC.
you're saying merge the drafts?
We
PR?
just I'm saying things merge when I shouldn't say merge. Tag. So I wouldn't be upset about tagging an RC without merging. What is this? 436. If that's an in draft. So
Okay.
I'll be okay.
Yeah. Is there any? I mean, I can do that right now. Is there any other issues that anyone has on distribution? Or image spec for that matter? I think the other, what I put on the agenda is the other RC's been up for a week. Right. Can we just do the actual release on image spec? Is there any? I was reading through the process, and I thought that there was supposed to be a certain number of RCs or like a certain amount of time between RCs and release, and that's only for majors. And it feels like it's a major, but it's actually a minor, and so we can do really whatever we want.
So Sajay got that tag out last week for RC4. Are you saying you want to push an RC5 already?
I'm saying drop the RC and.
So that I say no. I've got a bunch of open PR sitting out there for that one. And I think I'd like to see us get distribution spec in sync and updated with whatever we've got in image spec tested and whatnot. That would be my preference. I want to see people actually use this for a little bit before we cut out GA.
What can you list the? So the reason I said it because the milestone has nothing in it. So do you want to throw stuff in the milestone that you're referring to?
I guess nothing I didn't The only thing in the milestone itself for this one, I just have a bunch of little cleanup things I threw in there last week. A bunch of them got merged. People have been really good about getting stuff merged in there. I'd love to get a markdown letter in this thing before we get a release, and that just requires cleaning up a bunch of markdown.
So we have a few maintainers here, I think, right? So why don't we throw those PRs in the chat and get them in, and then we can do a number 5. And I go ahead. Rom, did you mean to hand raise?
Sorry, yes. So if I understand Brandon's plan, so what he's saying is do the RC release first, announce, let the registries implement RC, use it for a little while, and then cut the GA release. Is that the plan?
That was my personal leanings, was to, before we cut a GA on image spec, give people time to actually come up with some implementations to start using it for a bit.
Okay. Okay.
Because right now, I think, Rom, you and I are the only ones that have implementations on this, best I know.
I believe ECR, AWS folks also have an implementation, but I think they're testing it internally. So.
Does that include
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
I was going to say, does that include the subject field on the index? Do you have that updated yet?
No, I don't know. It's in progress. I think. I that's kind of what I was going to ask is what does that look like? Like we have internal testing going on, and I think are relatively happy with where we're at. We're not going to be launching this publicly until it's GA'd, and I think there's probably other registries that are in that position.
For me, an ideal world would be to hear thumbs up from groups like yourself, Google, Docker Hub, just even if you haven't released it, just to say thumbs up looks good. Plus, I'd like to see distribution itself have something out there looking functional. And I'd love to see Boros, maybe Scopio, some other tools like that, Crane, able to work with this stuff as well. And if one doesn't, that's fine. But if none of them do it, that's what kind of gets me a little worried.
I think we had this exact conversation last week, so I won't like beat the horse with a stick or whatever the phrase is. So there was like complaints that we changed things between RCs. People implemented that and then got broken. Doesn't it make sense to like do the release and then people implement the release, because then it's really in stone? Are we scared to put things in stone?
Well, the whole reason we changed it is when people started implementing it, we said, hey, there's concerns we had here. And so we made changes while it was an RC. If we put it as a GA, we're supporting that for life, whether we like it or not.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the reason why the big changes were made was because someone implemented it. It was more of philosophical, right? Like, am I wrong?
To slightly rehash the old debate, I'm hesitating to bring it up just because of bad wounds there. But what I remember was when we were looking at how ORS was doing it, they were asking us for an API so that they could do an automatic upgrade to use the artifact manifest. And then that rose up the question, why do we even have an artifact manifest? And we backed it out. And so there was a whole back and forth there about how one implementation was looking at how they were doing it that suddenly triggered us saying, well, maybe this isn't the right way for us to roll this out.
So I've said enough, so I'll stop talking, but I will use this opportunity to share with everyone here that I have a child impending and will be off for some time. So part of why I've been pushing is for like my personal, like, oh, please, if this could just be done before that time happens. So I don't know if that changes anyone's opinion for my personal situation, but like, you know, I have a vote on one of the releases, and like I'm not sure I will be able to vote.
What I will say is keep the hurry up and push conversation to us and not to other parts of your life.
You went too far. No, but yeah, I just, you know, just to share, like, not only do I do think it should be released now, because it's been over a year, but like, yeah, that's just given the full disclosure there. And if there's a way for me to like proxy my vote to someone like Jason or something, I will do that. But yeah, I would love to get something out in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
If I can say something here. So, yeah, so I think let's announce an RC release and let all the client and registry tools catch up. And if there and the message out there should be that we don't expect any major changes until GA. And set a timeline, maybe 30 days, 90 days, and say this is when we will announce the GA. That's I think reasonable.
I think that's reasonable. I'm talking again. I think that's reasonable, but we've tried to do that in the past and didn't do that. But yeah, it feels like you know, not to call anyone out, it feels like Brandon is being conservative here, and so I would kind of defer to what he thinks.
I'm being conservative. You're being very quick, and everybody else is being very quiet. So I'm going to turn it over to Sajay, who has been very quiet.
So just to kind of get out of this issue for image spec, there's no issue in the milestone. There's some procedural stuff that we need to do. If things like linting and stuff that can be added on are not a blocker, we could even do it post 1.1 because technically that's not affecting implementations or it's like a spec cleanup. But if you can get them in quickly, that's fine. But at least having them in the milestone so that we give clarity as to why we are not cutting a GA might be the first thing that we can do for image spec. For distribution, RC is not yet cut. So is there anything blocking us from making that cut today for RC, or are we pending on that also? That's for distribution spec maintainers, by the way, question.
Yeah, I'd like to see another RC on that one attempted. Or basically a repeat of the same RC number, but just with a few extra commits.
Can you give your, would you vote in favor of that if it were cut?
I believe so. I have not finished looking all the way through the whole spec yet again, but everything I think that was a concern, there's nothing in there that I know of right now that's blocking me from saying yes.
All right, I'm gonna try it just because we can. So I can do that right now.
Since we have some people here from other groups, how is it looking for folks like the ORS team from the Google Go Container Registry implementation, stuff like that, supporting some of these features on your side?
I think a container registry supports everything already. I may be wrong. Someone can correct me, but I think I had an opinionated choice to support subject and index before it was even merged because I thought it was probably right, and then that happened anyway. So I think we're up to date, but I
Yeah, the
have not
artifact type in there
exercised.
too.
Yeah.
Does that mean that's something we could throw in our CI pipelines to test against?
If you'd like, it's open source. I'm happy to help.
So Josh has been pulling in SOP for a lot of these, but more the merrier.
Yeah, I kind of think we should have an internal implementation so we can make the changes in step, but I think we can wait for Zot.
Yeah, we plan to merge the Zot PR in a day or two, Josh.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's really, we just need a container. We need a container image. So whatever it takes to get like a release out, it looks like you're just pushing on release.
Are there any other tools out there doing deep copy of content? Not just the index and the individual image manifest, but all the refers to everything there. I feel like Cosign did it, but just for signatures, if I was reading the documentation correctly.
Auras does it. I think the folks are implementing the index subject graph copy right now. So maybe give them a week. Was what I was thinking. Sorry, I didn't see any hands up. Did I speak over anybody?
Nope.
All right. Another follow-up was there was a message in the chat saying that do we do a release in 90 days? That's approximately 3 months time. So is there a timeline that makes people happy or gets people upset, or what's the general thinking? I would just like to kind of like get some feedback.
Prefer sooner than 90 days. Like, I don't think we're getting to a point where we're making the changes we made between the first few RCs were kind of substantive. I don't think there's been a lot of discussion of making more of those kinds of changes. So this feels like we're sort of at a place where it's, you know, some people would like to see conformance tests, some people would like to see more client implementations, but we're not saying, hey, like, we need to change this field. So I think from that point of view, we've really made a lot of progress and we're pretty close to being ready.
So can we set a period for like requests for comments for maybe, I don't know, somewhere in between? I'm okay even 1 month to 6 weeks, whatever people feel like. And GCR, Azure, or Docker Hub can say that like within this time, if you haven't given any comment, we're going to cut release in like 6 weeks. Is that reasonable? I'm sure people want it shorter, but something along the lines where people can come back from vacation also, right? So my
Personal timeline would be something like 2 weeks after I see multiple implementations. That's my personal. But that's different from saying 6 weeks from today. It's 2 weeks from whenever we get to that point.
My opinion is as long as the implementers are approving it, they're expected to support it, right? So if they don't release this implementation, it's up to them. Maybe they decide to keep it fully private. But as long as we have feedback from people who are implementing it, that might be the only thing I'm holding it against. If we don't get any feedback, even then we should just decide to call it a day. Like, we've done our work here. and give people at least some amount of time to give feedback, right? Like hold at least if they at least say hold, it's okay. But if they're not participating, I don't think holding the rest of the community waiting for the release seems to be the right thing. Again, I'm not going to use Josh's baby as an example, but at least let's make sure we can make some progress here. I think that's what people want.
Yeah. When I say implementations, I was thinking open source. So I'm excluding all the cloud registries that have to do things on internal schedules.
Okay, and you were talking about registries, not clients. Okay.
I'd like to see implementations of both. So both clients and registries. So it's
Okay.
not distribution, Crane, or us, handful of tools like that.
That makes sense. I like that as a goal. So two on client, two registry, and if there's a third person that's saying, please hold, I'm reviewing, that's also probably else a good thing. But if nobody, I agree with Sage, if nobody's actually saying I'm doing work, right, then why hold up? Yeah. Good point, Sajay. And that's for image and distribution as well, or are we only talking about image?
I think the push was to get image spec out, and I was delaying because we don't have anybody implementing distribution spec with it yet.
Yeah, more. I've seen a lot of people doing distribution APIs to test this stuff and make sure it works. But you're right that nobody's really doing it directly off the spec. But we are getting, pull requests into Containerd, for example, for WASI, WASM implementations with artifacts, that sort of thing. Interestingly enough. Didn't expect them to be first, but okay.
WASM likes to jump ahead of everything. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay, cool.
So I see Josh has got the new tag up there. Part 2. Maybe you should call it take 2 or attempt 2. Are you still going to?
Yeah.
You just got it right now. Okay.
Yeah, I never know how to get the change log properly, but yeah, so this is here. I'm gonna throw that in. I'll close the other one and I'll send out the email.
Thanks for getting it out there, Josh. I'm really hoping I didn't mess up anything with all the Ginkgo dependencies there, because that was a bit of a spaghetti mess to try to sort through all the Ginkgo changes.
Brian, I missed the earlier part of the call. Are you done with your review of RC3 on distribution?
So I rejected the initial RC3.
Yeah.
And Josh just pulled a new PR as of 2 minutes ago.
Right.
for a new cut or a new take at RC3. And so going to review
Right.
that.
I saw you said you were still reviewing in your rejection.
Yeah, am I still reviewing was I want to look through the spec.md, make sure there's nothing else in there is catching my attention that would hold it up. I don't think there's going to be, but I just haven't spent the time doing that yet.
Yeah. Thanks for doing the work. I'll hold up on my review until you've made a statement in this new PR.
Yeah, my hope is by the weekend, I'll have that thumbs up and we can get this knocked out.
Cool. I'll check Monday. Thanks.
So with that done, anything else on the agenda that people wanted to chat about today?
Was there anything else, Brandon, on the top of your mind for milestone 1.1 for image spec? Anything pending specifically that we need to get done?
For the milestone, I don't think so, other than implementations. Outside the milestone cleanup stuff, it would be nice to get the markdown linter in there, and to do that, I'm holding off on making a mega PR for the 3 other preceding PRs that was doing a bunch of markdown lint kind of changes in there individually to files for folks to get a chance to review that. And then once people can review that, I'll do 1090. I'll basically update that with cleaning up all the lint on everything that's left.
What are your thoughts on maybe if we create an issue for anybody to comment on for implementation per se? Like I would like to have at least I can ask for the ORAS folks to comment on that, right? And maybe reach out to the ACR folks also to say, okay, they don't have a problem when they are ready. I know that they're kind of working on it right now, but they're not ready yet. So because there's nothing tracking. I mean, on the calls we can state that, and that might be okay, but somebody will have to go and write the notes back. At least have an open issue, looking for feedback for implementations to cut GA, and then others can comment on that.
It's basically like
Is
a
that okay?
tracking issue for implementations that
Right.
I've seen it before. That sounds good to me. And then we can start tagging a bunch of other implementations in there.
Sounds good. Okay, thanks.
Anything else other than just admiring John's loss from that?
It is an awesome hat.
Folks want 30 minutes back from your day? Give you a chance to review some PRs. Cool. Josh, thanks for knocking that one out. And we'll circle back here in a week and hopefully have a distribution spec RC cut and working on next steps. Thanks, everybody.
They're
Bye all.
Thank
Take
you.
care, guys.